Hello, everyone, and welcome to Minnesota Housing's public hearing for the 2024-2025 Qualified Allocation Plan, or QAP. My name is Nicola Viena. I am the Housing Tax Credit Supervisor here at Minnesota Housing. Thank you for attending this public hearing. We are recording this meeting, and today is June 28th, 2022, and the time is approximately 10 o'clock a.m. We have a number of Minnesota Housing staff on the call today. We're joined by Summer Jefferson, our Multifamily Programs Manager, Vicki Farden, our Housing Policy Specialist, and Kelly Winter, our Policy and Compliance Analyst, Q Vang, our Housing Tax Credit Program Manager, and we may be joined by James Lenhoff, our Assistant Commissioner of Multifamily. We have a few housekeeping items to start. We are using the GoToWebinar platform. Your line will be muted in order to get a clear recording. If you would like to speak today at the hearing, please send us a message in the question box now, letting us know your intent to speak. I'd like to go over a few features of the GoToWebinar platform. You have two options for listening to the presentation, which is indicated by the red box. You can listen through your computer using your mic and speakers, or you may listen through the telephone. You should have received the phone number and access code as part of your webinar instructions. You can also find that information in the toolbar. I'll assume that since you're viewing this, you have already found the listening features and can hear me. But if at any time you lose audio during the webinar, try switching audio options or exit out and come back in, and we will have staff on hand to assist you. For attendance, the GoToWebinar keeps track of who registers and who attends the meeting. If you have other people listening with you, please either email us, letting us know who else is in attendance. You can email us at htc.mhfa@state.mn.us, and I'll ask Kelly to go ahead and put that email address into the chat box. You've got that, or you can send your name in the questions box so that we know that you're here. Again, please let us know if you plan to make a comment by putting a message in the question box. You will have 5 minutes to speak, and when it is your turn, we will call on you and unmute your line. And you will also need to unmute your line on your end. And we'll show you again when we get to that part of the meeting. This is our mission at Minnesota Housing. Housing is the foundation for success, so we collaborate with individuals, communities, and partners to create, preserve, and finance housing that is affordable. Minnesota Housing provides access to safe, decent, and affordable housing and builds stronger communities across the state. Minnesota Housing offers products and services to help Minnesotans buy and fix up their homes and to stabilize neighborhoods, communities, and families. The agency supports the development and preservation of affordable rental housing through both financing and long-term asset management. And the agency has pioneered a successful model for supportive housing that helps stabilize the lives of some of the state's most vulnerable citizens. So thank you for being part of our mission to serve Minnesotans. Here is our agenda for this meeting. I, Nicola, will share background information on the hearing and the order of speakers. Summer Jefferson, our Multifamily Programs Manager, will give a brief overview of the QAP. And that next, we'll have speakers that will share their comments, and I will call on them to speak. And then we'll talk about next steps and take any questions that you have. So we will have time for question and answers, and you can feel free to type those questions in the question box, or you can ask those questions later on in the meeting. Then we will adjourn our meeting. We will keep the meeting open until 11 o'clock a.m. We do have handouts in the handouts section of the GoToWebinar. So if you look at your toolbar, you will see a handout section, and you can click on the arrow to expand those. And so these are the handouts that are listed. And these documents are also available in the e-news we sent out on Monday, June 6th, and they're available on our website, which I'll show you where later in the meeting. Minnesota Housing is required by Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code to develop a qualified allocation plan for each year of tax credits allocated. Minnesota Housing must hold a public hearing for the credits, so this meeting represents that hearing. And our purpose of this hearing is to gather your comments and to listen to public voices. The proposed changes can be found on our website, mnhousing.gov, and on our homepage listed under special announcements, and again on those handouts. We published notice of this hearing in our June 6th e-news, also in the Star Tribune and the State Register. Following this meeting, we will record each public comment received. We will release a second version of the QAP and have a second public comment period in late September. We will then present a revised QAP to the Board of Directors in late fall. Other tax credit allocating agencies in Minnesota will hold their own public hearings. So next, I'd like to turn it over to Summer Jefferson to provide a brief overview of our 2024-2025 QAP. I apologize for the typo. It should be 2024-2025 QAP.
Thank you, Nicola. I'll do a quick test to make sure you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, Summer.
Okay. Thank you, Nicola. My name is Summer Jefferson, and I manage the programs area in multifamily, which includes the development of the Qualified Allocation Plan and also the administration of the multifamily consolidated RFP and a number of programs, state and federal programs. So I'll give a really brief overview of the QAP process, our development process. I won't go into a lot of details in regards to the proposed changes today, just because, as Nicola mentioned, we have the summary and all of the resources are available as handouts in this webinar and also on our website. We've also had a number of engagement or webinars to discuss the changes in more detail, and those recordings are available on our website as well. But generally, the Qualified Allocation Plan, or the QAP, includes detailed definitions and procedures for implementing the tax credit program. It also incorporates a self-scoring worksheet that kind of assigns preferences and points for developments that meet Minnesota Housing's tax credit program, and those are also the requirements that are used for our deferred loan funding priorities. So these two documents, the QAP and the self-scoring worksheet, are the foundational components for evaluating all tax credit projects for 4 or 9%, and then also the funding requests that are submitted in the annual multifamily consolidated RFP. The 2024-2025 QAP also, as I said, sets the overall 2023 and 2024 consolidated RFP funding priorities. So for the 2022 to 2023 QAP, as many of you may recall, the agency had a significant amount of outreach and engagement with stakeholders across the state. And as a result of that, we were able to make great strides and incorporated a significant policy changes and made substantive changes to the scoring selection criteria. And our recent RFP, the 2021 RFP, was actually the first funding round to implement those new policies. We're really just starting to see the results of those changes. And because of that, our approach this year was more targeted and focused on areas that we can continue to leverage that work, and identifying areas to kind of expand or streamline or clarify the policies. We did some initial engagement to kind of get your feedback as well, to see if there are areas that were needed additional streamlining, clarification, or expansion, and those direct results of that engagement are incorporated into the proposed changes and the modifications. So today, or what we've published, we are proposing modifications to the greatest need tenant targeting category. In our high priority homeless and criteria and people with disabilities criteria, we are proposing a number of changes to our geographic criteria, which include our workforce housing, our rural tribal criteria, our QCT criteria, and also our methodology for our hold harmless provision. We're proposing changes to equitable development, our Black, Indigenous, and people of color owned, women-owned business enterprises criteria. And then there are also some specific tax credit policy revisions that are proposed, which also include an expansion of the definition for the RD set aside and also the amounts. So we have thus far had 2 outreach or engagement sessions. Those were conducted one was on June 9th, and that was a Minnesota Housing webinar. And that recording is available on our website. And then we've also had a joint discussion with Minnesota Housing Partnership and the Metropolitan Consortium of Community Developers on the 14th. In addition to that, we've had a number of comments that have already come in. Those generally end up having additional conversations and questions that always available for questions or additional clarification conversations. I will turn it back over to Nicola to kind of discuss the next steps, start from today and then onward.
Great, thank you, Summer. The public comment period opened on June 6, 2022. If you have further comments after the hearing, we will accept comments until tomorrow, Wednesday, June 29th at 5 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Please email comments to us at htc.mhfa@state.mn.us, or you can, I'll show you the other ways that you can send them in the next slide. The public comments received in writing will be part of the board report in late fall that is published and posted on our website. So we welcome comments on any of these documents, the Qualified Allocation Plan, the self-scoring worksheet, or the methodology guide. So here are the different ways that you can share comments with us. Since these are public comments, we will share them on our website, and you can email your comments, you can mail your comments, you can send them up until tomorrow. Even if they're postmarked tomorrow, we'll still take them later in the week. And you can also call our office if you prefer to make a comment by phone. And this number is for Kelly Winter. Our preferred method is email, so that it can be your voice and you can put in your writing and explain your comments, and then we can post those comments. Now we will take comments from members of the public who are on the call. When you make your presentation, we ask that you tell us your first and last name, and if you are affiliated with an organization that you're representing, and then you can share your comment. You'll have about 5 minutes to share your comment. And so right now, just go ahead and type in if you want to speak, just to let us know how much time we have to allot. I know I've got our first speaker that would like to speak. So we've got Susan Riggs will be up first. And Susan, we will unmute your line, and then you will also need to unmute your line. And you can go whenever you are ready.
Hi, good morning. My name is Susan Riggs, and I'm calling in from the ASPCA. I'm Director of Housing Policy for the ASPCA, which may seem a little bit strange for an animal welfare organization to have someone focused on housing. However, what we have found is that the majority of pets that are being relinquished, owner surrendered to public shelters, are related to housing issues. And we're seeing by far that these are lower income folks that are being impacted by having to give up pets because of housing instability, the lack of pet-friendly housing in the market. And this is a growing equity issue that we're dedicating significant resources to addressing, and recognizing that the low-income housing tax credit program is by far the largest housing program in the United States. We're really focused on where we might be able to at least provide some pet-friendly housing for lower income households for those units that are being publicly financed. And one reason for this, setting aside the significance of it being a growing equity issue for lower income folks, is that there's many benefits that come to bear when a household is able to maintain a household pet. For example, for children, there are increased cognitive benefits, empathy building for children, certainly in the senior years, companionship for folks that may otherwise be left alone. And then certainly in all the intermediate years, increased public activity. Obviously, you might have heard the saying, if your dog is overweight, then you need to get more exercise. And that really is a true quote, because pets really do encourage more physical activity. And that, of course, is all of these things are part of the mission of affordable housing, is thinking holistically about how to improve the lives of the individuals that are living in affordable housing. And so this is a really significant way that we can contribute to the lives and the happiness and the well-being within not just these households, but the communities they live in, by increasing social interactiveness and getting folks out in the community to know each other and know each other's pets. So I really, really appreciate you guys taking this comment into account and considering it. I am more than happy to talk offline, or if folks have questions today about this. The last thing that I'll say is I do understand that there have been some concerns in the past about how integrating pets into these communities could impact the overall cost of construction. And having been an affordable housing professional for 2 decades prior to coming to the ASPCA, I'm very intimately aware of how the pro formas work, and the ability for these, for any costs associated with this to be integrated pretty seamlessly without additional exposure to the developers. So I'm happy to chat about that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan, for your comment. And yeah, I think we would love to have additional conversations just to understand from a pet-friendly perspective, and just understanding if it's a QAP policy perspective, or if there are other design components that we can look at, consider, and just have more understanding about just the particulars of what you've seen, if you've seen it in other states, and if other states have incorporated some of them into their policies as well, but just more conversations. And so we'll look for your comments, or if your written comment. I'm assuming that you may submit a written comment, and we'll reach out and have some additional conversations. Thank you for your comments today.
Okay, if anyone else would like to speak, I don't see anyone else in the chat that's signaled that they would like to, but feel free to raise your hand if you would like to make any comments, and we can call on you. Okay, well, in case you're typing out a message or question, I'm going to go through a couple more slides, but you still have an opportunity to make a comment in case you're thinking about what you want to say. So I'll give you a few minutes to think about that, and I'll go through a few more slides. So I want to show you our website here. So our website is mnhousing.gov. And for the multifamily rental housing development information, you go to the right-hand side where I've got this red rectangle, multifamily rental partners. You'll find more information. And then you'll see this beige toolbar near the top of the screen, and you'll go to the tax credits information. And then under quick links, you'll see Qualified Allocation Plan. And that is where you'll find the information for the 2024-2025 Qualified Allocation Plan. If you're looking for current documents for the 2022-2023 Qualified Allocation Plan, that will be on this home screen for housing tax credits, but any of the future QAP will be on this Qualified Allocation Plan page. And this is our contact information. So QAP Public Comments can be sent to this email address, the htc.mhfa@state.mn.us. If you have any housing tax credit questions, you can direct those to me, Nicola Viana. If you have questions about the QAP, you can direct those to Minnesota housing staff that you might know that is working on a policy, or to Summer Jefferson. So before I open it up for questions, I just want to see one more time if there's anyone that would like to make a public comment, because there's going to be a difference between making a public comment and then asking a question. So if you have any comments on the QAP, feel free to raise your hand now, and we'll give it one more chance. It won't be just one more chance. We're actually going to keep the line open until 11, so you'll have a little bit of time in case you change your mind. Okay, not seeing any. Okay, I'm going to move on to questions then. So we've now arrived at the question and answer part of our session. If you have a question, you can ask it in a few different ways. You can type your question or comment into the questions box, and we will answer your questions as they come in. And you may decide you want to make a public comment in the chat. If you do that, just please put for public comment, here's my comment. You're welcome to do that as well, although we prefer you send it to our email address so we can easily put that into the public record. You may also raise your hand using the go-to controls on your right-hand side, and we will unmute your line and then call on you, and then you will also need to unmute your line by clicking the microphone icon on your side. We will answer all your questions. We've got plenty of time to answer any questions, so feel free to ask any questions that you might have. I am not seeing any questions coming in. So before, oh, I see one person. Oh, okay. Q, do you mind unmuting Quinn Beaver's line? Go ahead, Quinn.
Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, Quinn Beaver from a nonprofit called Elevate, affiliated with the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition. And I was just curious how much Minnesota Housing is looking at the state's carbon emission goals and sort of working alongside them to like be a part of the solution, given that there's been some legislation passed and also a climate action plan, and obviously it would be great to have those things be aligned. So I was just curious how much that's being taken into account.
Thank you for the question. So I am definitely not the expert in this area. We have our architectural team. There are a number of, we do have policies incorporated into the QAP, enhanced sustainability and universal design to kind of incentivize certain design elements. But we also, in addition to that, have our design standards. We have a Minnesota overlay that kind of we use. And so I definitely want to connect you with them to kind of see what we have incorporated into our standards or policies. They would definitely be the ones that would know more about it and would be able to speak to what we're looking at, what we're proposing in the QAP. We aren't proposing any modifications, but that doesn't mean that there aren't potential modifications to the design standards or building standards that could be incorporated into in next year for the 2023 RFP. So we'll connect you. We have your information, so we'll connect you with one of our architects on our construction team.
All right, I think we might have another question here. Okay, so we do have someone that would like to make a public comment. So Jared Johnson, if you'd like to make a public comment, Q, you could go ahead and unmute his line, and Jared, you can unmute on your end.
Thank you. This is Jared. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. Yep, we can hear you.
Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead. Yes, I'm Jared Johnson. I'm from the FIAS Alliance of Minnesota. So that's the part of the Passive House building standard community. And I also work in an architectural office doing all types of multifamily housing. So actually kind of building on the last question, our public comment is specifically regarding some of those enhanced sustainability criteria that the last commenter brought up. And we were, as part of our comments, are advocating for a higher presence of passive house standards within the self-scoring worksheet. They're actually already included in several of the footnotes, but they're equated with several other standards that are that tend to be less rigorous, and the passive house standards that we are advocating for, buildings as a rule can use up to less than 90% less energy for space conditioning than conventional buildings, and up to 60% less overall energy when one of the passive house standards is engaged. So just wanted to get that on the record, as well as expanding the there are multiple resident benefits as well, including the most significant being decreased utility costs, which are allowed to be passed on to tenants, as well as additional benefits, including more comfortable indoor environments, cleaner air due to more intense air sealing details, and noise reduction, which can all have a significant impact on the living experience in any of the affordable properties that would be seeking these tax credits. So yeah, just wanted to say that we are definitely looking at those enhanced sustainability criteria, and hoping that our future comments here that we'll be submitting via email will hopefully lead to some more enhanced criteria on the self-scoring worksheet for the enhanced sustainability.
Thank you, Jared, for your comments, and we look forward to your email and reviewing it further.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or public comments at this time? Before we start losing people on the call, I just want to share some next steps. We will review and consider all the feedback and public comments submitted during the public comment period, which ends tomorrow at 5 o'clock, tomorrow being June 29th. Our timeline allows for careful consideration and review of all the comments, including a second public comment period in the fall. And our presentation and final action of the 2024-2025 QAP and self-scoring worksheet are expected to occur at the Minnesota Housing's board meeting in November of 2022. So those are our next steps. And we thank you all for your time and your partnership. And if anyone else or any staff want to say anything else, feel free to. Otherwise, we're going to keep the line open until 11 o'clock. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to let you know this is Nicola. I'm still on the line. I'll just remain on the line until 11 o'clock in case anyone joins and would like to make a comment. So sorry I don't have any great background music for you to enjoy, but feel free to just keep me on in the background if you'd like. But I'll be on the line in case anyone wants to make a comment. Thanks. Hello, everyone. The time is now 11 o'clock a.m. and there being no further comments and commenters in attendance, the public hearing is now concluded. Thank you for attending the meeting today and have a great day, everyone.